Okay, let's go. We're live. So, Daniel, uh, think we're gonna pretend like we didn't have the most amazing conversation for the past 10 minutes. I wish we could share this with you. Welcome, everybody. I'm excited to do this interview for the first time on my main channel this time. We did one previously on my second podcast channel. This is gonna go on my main channel because I want as many people as possible exposed to you and your thoughts and your opinions. For those of you who are not familiar, Mr. Priestley here is one of my favorite entrepreneurs, writers, thinkers, and helped me shift a lot of my thinking about geopolitics, global economy, macroeconomy. So I really want you guys to listen to this guy. Some of you in the chat have heard him before, but enough of me rambling. How are you, Daniel?
I'm good, mate. I love coming on your show, and thank you so much for having me back.
Yeah, the couple of times that we did this, this was like eye opening to me. I think I really enjoy the way you think outside the box, and I think at this point things are really in the place where we need somebody outside the box to figure out what the fuck is going on. I mean, I brought you here. We have a lot of experts on TV, experts who are saying really non expert is shit, and we'll talk about in a second. But how about a non-expert like you who can actually tell us what the fuck is going on with inflation, Daniel? I mean,
Yeah, look,
that's such a broad question. Like, save
it's a
us,
big,
Daniel.
it's a big question, right? Yeah, and also just for everyone's context, I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I'm not an investor in the same way that you are. I'm not an analyst. I build my own companies and I sell my own companies, right? So I build and sell companies and I buy companies. I do M&A, mini M&A. Basically I put together my own groups of companies and that sort of stuff. So I'm not I'm not in your world, your analyst world, or the type of YouTubers that you normally hang out with. But look, we talked about this sort of stuff the other day, and we talk about inflation. The most simple definition of inflation is too much money chasing too few goods, and that takes into consideration both the demand side and the supply side. So on the demand side, if you pump money into an economy, you have too much money, and on the supply side, if you have too few goods, if there's any supply shock that happens, then you essentially have too few goods, and it's a combination of both, or it's one or the other, or a combination of both. But it's an interesting time because everything as we know it is changing. I think 2019 is the last year of the world as we knew it, and now we're moving into a very different world. So the world changed. The world changed in 1945 when there was a Bretton Woods agreement, right? And the world entered into a period of peace and globalization. And it was for the first time in history, there was a deliberate attempt to create a middle class. There was a deliberate attempt to create a peaceful, unified world. Largely, that was about putting together countries that would stand up to potentially a threat of Russia or nuclear weapons. So there was a big change that happened in 1945. Then there was another big set of changes that happened in 1970s. In fact, the 1970s is an incredible moment in time because so many things happened. We decoupled from the gold standard, right? So let's just zoom in on that. Fiat currency. All throughout history, dominant superpower countries have always had a real issue trying to keep up with a currency for their populations, right? As their empire grows, as their population grows. Imagine if the currency is bananas. How do you, like, at the beginning, you're growing bananas and giving out bananas for people to use as currency. Eventually, you have to figure out how the hell you're going to have millions of people trading with this stuff. So think about like gold, for example. If you want to make your currency gold, where do you get enough gold? Let's say you've got 300 million citizens and they all want to have a certain amount of money and they want to have a certain amount of currency and they want to have a certain amount of store of wealth. You eventually run out of whatever it is you've chosen as the store of wealth. As you become more and more successful, the desire and the demand for money lifts off, and then you don't have, because by definition, you're trying to peg it to something that's limited, right? You're trying to create money that's based on something that is in short supply. So therefore, you run out of whatever it is you've chosen, right? Whether it's seashells, bananas, or gold. So essentially, that happens around 1970. They come up with this
Also,
new
you don't have
idea.
control. Like when it's gold or seashells or whatever the fuck that is, you don't control the supply of money, which is like
Yeah,
what they
well,
love to do.
yeah, but I think there's this real issue of there's just not enough of it as your economy is exploding. So what every single historical empire in all of history has always done is debase the currency. So they always come up with this idea called, well, we only need half a bar of gold, not a full bar of gold. We only need a little bit of gold, and we'll just kind of debase and debase. And they've always done this because they run out of whatever it is in short supply. So they have to kind of try and figure out something, and they come up with that same solution. But we came up with something called fiat currency, and fiat currency is a really smart idea, which is that it's redeemable for clearing your tax debt. So if you rack up a tax debt, then there's this legal tender that allows you to clear your taxes. And essentially, if we make it that you must clear your tax debt with USD, then by virtue of the fact that you interact with the economy, you create a tax debt that's equal and opposite, and then you have to clear the taxes with the USD. So that actually creates a scalable system, where the scalable system is the more the economy expands, the more taxes get created. The more the taxes get created, the more you have to clear the tax debt with the US dollar. So it's this beautiful system. People say, oh, fiat currency is not really pegged to anything. That's nonsense. It's pegged to taxes. It's pegged to your ability to pay taxes. And obviously, it's policed by police and military and all those kind of things. So you have an entire economy surrounding it. It's a
And don't
very
forget petrodollars. Petrodollars is a huge peg as well.
exactly everything that's of value in that economy. So the fiat currency system is the first time that they created a system that could kind of take off with an economy. At the same time, you had women entering the workforce. You had double the amount of productive people in the economy. So in the 1970s, the baby boomers, they hit the working age. Those women who were baby boomers were the first generation en masse of women to enter the economy, especially in professional jobs, university educated jobs. So you doubled the number of productive people in the economy in the 1970s, or the people entering the economy. You also had computers. Now, 1970s, computers didn't do a lot, computing systems. 1980s, they started doing a little bit of word processing. 1990s, they start connecting to the internet. So from the 1970s to today, or till recently, more computers equals more effective workers. If you have an accountant with a computer, they're a more effective accountant. If you have an accountant, if you have a journalist with a computer, they're a more effective journalist. But what happened more recently is that computers actually did two things. Number one, they stopped making us more effective and just made us redundant, right? So they completely screwed up that system where they just cut us out completely.
Yep.
And then the second thing is they distract us. They don't make us more efficient. In many cases, we spend time on social media being distracted. We have unlimited access to entertainment. We have unlimited access to all sorts of stuff that is non-productive activities. So computers are actually distracting humans. So if we look at 1970s, all the women enter the workforce, double the productive people in the workforce, but that happened, and then that can't happen a second time. That's a one-off event. And then the next thing that happened in the 70s was the globalization system happened, right? So they deliberately moved the jobs from the US manufacturing to China. Now, mind you, people talk about that as though it was this horrific thing that they did to the US workers, but there's another side to the story. Most of the manufacturing jobs in the USA were actually importing immigrants to do those jobs. When they were manufacturing cars, for example, most of the people who were manufacturing cars in Detroit, they were not Americans they were not second generation, third generation, fourth generation Americans. They were first generation immigrants who were manufacturing things. So remember that the system that they changed was not killing jobs for Americans. It was stop importing immigrants to do manufacturing jobs and export the manufacturing jobs to China. So that was one of the things that happened at that time. So that began the big push towards globalization, and 1 billion people got lifted out of poverty because of that. So that was pretty amazing as well. We entered into a long peace. We had a population explosion, right? There was a lot of population explosion, except the population exploded mostly because of expanded life expectancy. And we urbanized and we had a consciously expanding middle class. Now, here's what's happening at the moment, right? So we're deliberately growing middle class. At the moment, we've now got retiring baby boomers. The baby boomers are going to become economic sponges. They were just like literally 5 minutes ago, they were economic powerhouses. They were in senior jobs, senior roles, running big businesses. They were investing into the economy. They were lending money. And then the minute somebody retires, they get rid of their business. They stop investing into equities. They stop investing into high yielding, into debt. They want to go cash. They want to go bonds. They want to be ultra low risk because they're retired now. And they also become economic sponges. All they really do is draw down from their investments and spend money without productivity, without corresponding productivity. And the cost of healthcare goes through the roof. So there's all these kind of... there's a big significant change when a huge percentage of the population go from working to retiring. That's happening right now. The next thing is the computers. As I said, it goes from productivity to redundancy and distraction. We're now entering a period of deglobalization where it's now possible for factories to produce things with very minimal amounts of workers. So therefore, they're moving factories closer to the markets. We're going through a period of population stagnation and decline. Most people are worried about population getting out of control. Population's actually falling. China's population's peaked and is now on decline. One-child policy, you've got all these people aging into oblivion. If you look at demographic charts, I want people to have a look at a demographic chart and go and circle the number of women aged 25 to 40, right? Because those are the people who are likely to potentially have children, right? Now, mostly they won't have children, and you can see that they're not having children because there's no children showing up in the 1 to 5 age bracket. But if you go and circle that little circle, like literally get a pen out and circle how many women are between 25 and 40, you'll see that this is an ever shrinking group of people who don't psychologically want to have children. And once you actually realize that that tiny little square is the only percentage of people who can have a child, you actually start to realize that we're about to go into massive population decline, right? So population's collapsing. We've got fiat overstimulation. Back to what's happened. So the fiat system was so brilliant and so wonderful and so incredible, but the only problem with it is that politically you can just expand it as much as you like, especially if you're the dominant currency in the US. Bill Clinton was kind of somewhat relatively fiscally responsible, and then W. Bush doubled the deficit to go into Afghanistan and Iraq, and then Obama doubled it again, and then Trump doubled it again, and then Biden has already doubled it, right? So we've actually gone from Clinton to Bush double, Obama double again, right? It's just double, right? So we're just in astronomical overstimulation. And it's killing the middle class. So the middle class is just in free fall at the moment. The middle class can't afford houses.
That's how we got to $30 trillion of U.S. national debt.
Right. So now we're just.
I'll give you just by your reference. People should understand, and you're not lying. Not long ago, our U.S. debt was $15 trillion, and if you do the math, but what Dan said is just a couple of years ago. It's not that long ago.
Yeah, it's out of control, right? So runaway. Now, once you pump that sort of money in, here's an interesting thing about money. Money is time, right? So debt is shifting time from the future to the present. And what you're saying is, like, for example, very simple mental exercise is if I lend one person $300 to buy a suit so they can go to a job interview, and I lend another person $300 to get drunk and buy alcohol, right? To buy alcohol and get drunk. What I'm actually doing is I'm time shifting, right? So for the person who's going to get a job, I'm allowing them to unlock the resource of getting a job to create even more money, which they can repay the $300. For the person who's going to spend it on alcohol, I'm time shifting the ability for them to get drunk to the present and making their life worse, right? So it's a time shifting device. And money is very much, it is time, right? It's just a store of time. And like the more you realize and connect that money is time, when you give people money and they didn't have to invest any time for it, they spend it very freely, right? So if you give a kid £1,000, they run out and buy a PlayStation with it. They just go and spend it as fast as they can because it costs them no time. If a kid has to work for $5 an hour in order to save up for a PlayStation, they make different decisions. They value things very differently. So as soon as you decouple income or cash from time, such as giving out government grants, the velocity of money goes through the roof. People spend it. And then once they get it, they spend it. And once they get it, they spend it. So if you inject $1 million into the economy, it gets spent 10 times, and it actually goes around the economy and creates 10 million because of the multiple spending rounds and the velocity of money. So when people earn money, they tend to spend more responsibly because it's linked to time. When you inject money, there's a higher velocity and higher multiple spending rounds because it's decoupled from people's time. So what we're seeing now is this insane velocity of money flowing through the economy because people were just given money.
It's the same thing when you were a kid and like your dad would give you $50 versus whether you had to go and work for a whole week for that $50, waiting
Did you
tables
have a
and
dad who
busting.
gave you $50?
No, listen, I'm gonna tell you the shocking story. I'm gonna blow your mind. So mind you, I have a Russian dad. So this is not
I was gonna
it's not as
say.
it's not as horrible as it sounds, but it's gonna sound really horrible. Shout out to the 355 people watching this live right now. So when I was 17 years old, I was trying to save money for a bike. I don't remember, some bullshit I needed. And my
Sega Master
dad,
System.
go ahead, I don't know. It was just to get girls. I was about to say something else. Anyways, so yeah, and my dad owned a restaurant, and he wasn't really like operating it so much, but he owned a restaurant, and he had somebody who ran the restaurant. It was super busy, so my dad had to be super involved. And asked him, "Hey, can I work there for a couple of weeks so I can save up some money?" And then he said, "Sure, you can clean tables, etc., etc., etc." And then the second day, he calls me and says, "You're fired." I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You're fired. It's not good." So I came in there and I had this entitlement, basically. Oh, that's my dad's place, and I can just skim through it. And 48 hours into it, he said, "You're fired." He wouldn't even give me a second. He wouldn't like just say, "Well, you need to do better." He said, "Go home. Sit in the car. I'll take you home." And the end of it. I never worked for him ever again, and like he never said nothing about it. So my dad was really like tough about teaching you real life lessons. Like what he was trying to teach me, even though he didn't say it, like he was like, "You fuck up in real life, this is what's gonna happen, my guy."
Yeah, he's a good dad. Good
Yeah,
lessons.
but at that point, I hated him for doing that. It's like, why?
I'm glad that I didn't know your dad was an entrepreneur, right?
Oh, he owned
That's
multiple businesses, and he got
multiple
fucked in
businesses.
almost every one of them except for
Ah,
one of them.
this is why you
Yeah.
steer away from entrepreneurship.
No, 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 no. Well, he got fucked a lot, but the last one he did was really, really good, and that's where he like finally he hit it big. But I saw the trouble that entrepreneurs go through, like ingrateful employees, regulatory problems, IRS problems, basically seasonality, uh, cash flow, funding, every like sleepless nights. Like I've seen it all, like play out in real life. Like people think it's a breeze. It's like you're
It's
an
definitely
expert,
not a
and
breeze.
so you let's talk about that for a second. Let's segue into that. So owning your own business sounds great, right? Oh, I have no boss, like I can do what I want. And it's like I saw my dad literally like, mm,
Yeah, no, you've
I,
definitely got a
I
boss. The customer is the
yeah,
boss to begin with. Your investors could be your boss if you take on investors. Your employees, you tend to be their coach, their mentor, their support, their resource. So it's definitely a different one. But look, just in the context of inflation, if there's too much money chasing too few goods, that is the perfect situation to become an entrepreneur. If I just told you nothing other than that, if I said, hey, right now, market conditions, there's lots of money chasing too few goods and services, what do you think you should do about it, right? You want to set up a business. You want to have a business in those times, because inflation hurts people on fixed incomes. But if you own a business, you inflate your prices, right? So you actually have fixed overheads, and you can inflate your prices, put your prices up faster than your overheads go up. So the people who save money, they, at this time of inflation, they lose their savings or the value of their savings. People who have taken out debt, right this minute, if you take out, I just with one of my businesses, we just got offered $200,000 worth, £200,000 of additional debt, and my managing director said, should we take it? And I said, absolutely, we should take it. It was literally one of these push the button and get the debt. And the interest rate, I think, was about 8%. And it's like, if inflation's running at 8%, which it is at least, then literally this debt that they're offering us is free money.
Free money.
So if we're not going to take free money, that obviously says we're so incompetent, we don't know what we would do with free money, right? So when someone offers you money and you say, oh, no, I won't take that money, then effectively you say, I'm too stupid to know how to get a return on that, so I don't trust myself. So especially at this particular moment, if you can get your hands on debt at a fixed interest rate of less than 10%, the inflation will inflate away the debt. If you've got savings, the opposite's happening, right? The inflation's inflating away the value of your savings. If you've got a fixed income, the value of your income is going down. If you are a business owner, you just inflate your prices along with inflation, and the value is going up. In fact, sometimes the best times to make money are during these crazy periods of time. So I'm a big fan of entrepreneurship, and everyone should be in entrepreneurship. And if you've got any risk appetite whatsoever, you should get yourself out there into the world of entrepreneurship. There's probably 3 ways you could go with that. The least risky way would be to join an existing team in exchange for some equity in the business. So some sweat equity. You might have a reduced income. Maybe your normal income's 100 grand, and you take 60 grand in exchange for some shares. Or you might bring to the table something as a missing piece of the business, and you get existing equity. You could co-found a business. You could actually join someone who's doing this for the second or third time. You could. So one of the best ways, if you're new to entrepreneurship, is to join an existing team for equity. You could start something new and scale it up yourself if you've got the confidence to do that. It's a bit tricky, but there are very predictable steps to doing it. If you know the predictable steps of entrepreneurship, then you should go through those predictable steps. Entrepreneurship is actually not as complicated as people make out. It's very simple. There's just a set of stages that the business goes through. And then you could, alternatively, one of the biggest opportunities in the world right now is the baby boomers who want to retire and sell their businesses. So, Tom, I'll give you an example of some of the deals that I'm doing at the moment and some of the stuff that I find interesting. So imagine someone called Dave, and Dave is 66 years old. He's paid off his house completely. He's got a portfolio of assets. He's got a holiday home. He has some grandkids who have just popped into the universe, and all he wants to do is get out of that business. He doesn't want to be hiring, firing, running, marketing, all of that sort of stuff. He's desperate to sell the business. Now, the thing you need to know about the business is that Dave's business is great. Does 1.5 million. It's 300 grand worth of profit. It paid off his house. It's done great things all this period of time, except it's too big to be small and shut down. And it's also too small to be big and to be bought by a big company that's got a big checkbook. So here's a very classic deal you could do with someone like Dave. You could literally go to Dave and say, look, let's value your business at 1.5 million, 1 times revenue. And what I'll do is I'll take out a loan from you to buy the business. You lend me the 1.5 million, except for the first 5 years, I just want to do interest only. So interest only means that I'm going to pay, say, 7% interest. So call it 110 grand a year. It's
basically like a seller's finance deal.
Seller's finance, but interest only, right? So for round numbers, call it $1 million, call it 7% interest. So I'll pay you $70,000 a year, for the first 5 years, and then I will either refinance and give you the $1 million after paying you 7 years of 70 grand, 5 years of 70 grand, or I will sell the business and give you your $1 million instead. Or if I can't refinance or any of that sort of stuff, you can sell it to somebody else, or you can take it back off me. And now you effectively control that asset for the interest-only payments. You can double the business. You can bolt it together with other businesses. You can grow that business. You can refinance that business with a private equity firm. A private equity firm is unlikely to finance Dave because of his age, but he's highly likely to finance someone in their 40s. So
somebody just said, why the fuck he looks like you?
I know, everyone thinks that we're brothers from other mothers.
I've never noticed this, bro. You know how they say when people during their lifetime they start looking like their spouses?
Yeah.
Or their dogs. I can't remember which one.
I know. So you're my Russian brother.
Thank you. You're my brother from another mother.
Born on other sides of the planet, and we reunite.
Yeah.
Right? So.
But sorry for interrupting. Continue. Shout out to the 410 people listening to this fascinating explanation. Can I just push back on one thing? It's hard for me to imagine 100% seller finance deals. I mean, usually it's they'll want you to put in some equity, bro. Right?
Yeah, you'd be really surprised. It depends. It depends whether you can present yourself as a sensible solution. The truth is, I have met so many people of that age who already have their house paid off and they've already got everything else in order. They just do not want that business anymore. And the $1 million is secured against the business. They see the value in the business. They know that they could rescue the business if needed. They like the idea. Here's the other thing. Where else are they going to get 7%? Right? So they might say, it's a bit risky because you're not putting down a deposit. And you can say, well, that's just the risk you're going to have to take. What else have you got? The trick is, with a lot of these deals, the question is, what else have you got? Right? Especially going into a recession. Do you have anyone else who's willing to buy the business? I'm here, willing to take on your business and pay you $70,000 a year and owe you $1 million at some point in the future. I'm willing to take it over and start the thing. This is, I'll promise you that when someone gets to that age and that level of wealth, on many occasions, they've thought of just shutting the business down. They've just thought about, maybe I just close it. Right? I just want my time back. My time is my most valuable asset. You're thinking like someone who has plenty of years ahead and would like to have more money, not like someone who's got plenty of money, but time is the thing that they're worried about. And when you meet someone who's the right person and you present yourself as the right person, it's a great way to get into a business. And it's not necessarily, here's the thing, Tom, if you went and presented that deal and someone didn't want to take the deal, I would say you need to put together a little leadership team, 3 or 4 people who've got credibility together, and you present that as a leadership team. So you actually go to that business and say, it's not just me, Tom, it's Billy and Sarah. Sarah's an amazing CFO. Billy's an amazing marketer, right? The 3 of us are going to take over that business, and the 3 of us are going to be on the line to get that going. So it's going to be a management buyout. It's the other thing too, Tom, I don't know if you've ever done property development, but a standard property development loan, is interest only, a lot of interest only loans for a 5-year period while you're doing property development, and it's secured against the property. So realistically, it's a very similar arrangement with an existing business, but you can just do it direct with the seller. Anyway, look, I don't want to get too deep into that strategy because I'm just simply highlighting that where we are in the economy right now, these opportunities, it'll blow your mind. 2/3 of all revenue is currently being done through a baby boomer owned business, right? So right now, if you take all the businesses that are out there, I'm not talking FTSE 100 or S&P 500 or any of those big businesses, but right now, if you take the private equity, private owned businesses, 2/3 of all revenue is owned by baby boomers. They all need to sell their business. They're born 1946 to 1964. They are at that phase of life. They have to pass it on. A lot of the businesses are boring businesses like elevator repair and air conditioning installation and all sorts of like really weird random businesses that make millions of dollars of revenue. and their kids don't want it because their kids are doing some marijuana startup or some crypto, coin flipping thing, and the kids don't want to know about the boring family business. They want to do something exciting. So there's a great opportunity. I'm just saying, entrepreneurship's where it's at. A lot of people have just lost their shirt with
By the way,
crypto
somebody's
and
agreeing with you.
investing.
Please,
Yeah.
Morton, he's saying the same thing you said. I don't know if you can read the comment.
Had a neighbor started a landscaping business on the weekends, grew it to a huge business by his 60s, and I believe he had to sell it. His son didn't want to work that hard, right? Yeah, right. So you actually get to, here's the fun thing about that deal. If you imagine that someone else has run 25 miles and you just have to run the last mile, the 26th mile, and collect the trophy, in many cases, those types of businesses, here's what you can do. Let's be really cheeky. Let's say you take on that business and pretty much immediately you go out and find a bigger business, and you actually do a deal with a bigger business that's private equity backed. You do a deal to get the capital to refinance plus shares in the LP investor fund, right, with the private equity fund. So let's say you bought the business for $1 million and you have to refinance it, right, at some point. And let's say you say, look, I'll sell this business to 1.2 for 1.5 million, and it will be 1 million of cash and 500,000 of share swap or LP fund carried interest. And now you've just got yourself $500,000 of carried interest in an LP fund, or you've got yourself shares in a bigger company because you've done a share swap. And you might have a little earnout period, maybe 6 months, 12 months of earnout period. But now you've got $500,000 to $1 million worth of equity in a bigger, more successful business. So these are the types of deals that are going on out there at the moment. If you're entrepreneurial, not everyone's entrepreneurial, but it's so much more fun and exciting than faffing around with flipping crypto coins. It's
Rich is actually a really important question. I like that question. So he's basically saying, good, I'm on board. So how do I find these boomers?
Oh, well, it's kind of like if I sent you out, if I sent you out, Tom, for a walk around the neighborhood, and then when you got back, I said, how many red cars did you see? You would say, I don't think I saw any red cars. Whereas if I said to you, leave the front door, I want you to go looking for red cars, and every time you see a red car, I'll pay you for every red car you spot. You're going to see red cars everywhere. The reason you haven't spotted these is because you've not been looking for them. They're everywhere, quite literally. They're within a 3-mile radius of your house. There's like a dozen of these. They're all over the place. Go networking at different golf clubs. Go networking. Talk to your financial planners. Talk to your accountants. Go and talk to go and attend the dinners and lunches that are put on by the boring old business networking international groups and the local boat club, sailing club, etc. Just go talking to people and just go out and say, I'm looking to buy a business. I want to buy businesses. I'm an entrepreneur. I want to do that. The other thing I would encourage you to do is look for a management team. If you have a management team, you can go big, right? A CEO, CTO, COO, CFO, CMO. If you put together an amazingly, like a good little experienced team of 3 to 5 people, you can go take over a $10 to $20 million business and get private equity backing if you want to go big. Because remember, we're living in a world where there's too much money and too few goods and services. That's true for the big end of town as well. There's too much money in private equity funds and VC funds, and there's things are getting overinflated at all levels. So if you want to get private equity backing, you've got a management team, you can go do that sort of stuff as well.
I gotta ask you. So you've coached, I would say, hundreds of businesses, and then thousands.
So we have teams of coaches. We have accelerator programs and mentors, and we're in London, Sydney, Toronto. There's about 4,000 companies that we've worked with.
Can you share with me the most unlikely ass backwards kind of success story that happened despite it? Like, for example, when you play basketball and somebody takes a horrible shot for like Steph Curry range, and like, no, what are you doing? And then goes in and you're saying, yes, great. So the equivalent of that, like, did you see some like unlikely story, and then it turned out to be fucking amazing success?
Um, Look, some of the stuff that you'll see quite regularly is you do regularly see people who are the most annoying people, the most fucked up people on the team getting bought out for a lot of money, because when there's money surrounding a business, there's always someone who is the most annoying and least value person who owns equity, and they are often the first one to get bought out, and it's soul destroying, and it's crushing to see someone who's useless, as completely useless, who just happened to be there at the beginning. They were friends in high school, and this guy gets like a check to walk
Yep.
away. It's kind of like cutting out the cancer of the business. And you often see people who are shitty, annoying people getting paid a lot of money. So that's very frustrating. And here's the worst part: the reason it's horrible is because the value creator, who is the driving force of the thing, they get saddled with all of the debt, and they get saddled with the investors to then rectify the thing. So the dickhead gets paid to leave, and the value creator becomes a plow horse. And it's, you often see that situation.
I seen
Um,
it. I have a relative who's like a hardcore entrepreneur. You would love him. So he never had a paycheck ever in his life,
yeah,
and he like early stage investor, Tesla, Bitcoin, you name it, like super smart, brilliant guy. Like he just wrote, like we were having a conversation a couple of weeks ago. It's like, yeah, I wrote a trading algorithm and I tested it backwards on gold for the past 50 years and it works. And I just did it for fun. It's like, the fuck. So that kind of level of brilliance, okay? So anyway, so he has a business and I'm not
oh,
gonna go in a little bit.
actually, sorry, I just thought of a crazy one that just sold for millions as well, by the way.
Okay, so I'll just tell you the end of it, and you can share it with me. Essentially, the bottom line here, he has a business. He wrote the software. He found a solution, and it's basically making money. It's this algorithmic investment, but in real estate. It's much slower. It's not like it selects properties, analyzes whatever. But there were two motherfuckers with him in the beginning, were basically free riding for a whole bunch of time, and then they literally had to pay them to stop fucking meddling with the business, and they took a lot of money to walk away.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I exactly what you're describing.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
It happens. It happens all the time. It's heartbreaking. I hate it. I hate it because I see it so often. Okay, here's a funny one. In my Sydney office, there were these two young guys, 20 years old, and they joined my team a few years back. And they said, on day one, we want to work here so that we learn about entrepreneurship, and we want to join the team and do whatever needs to be done. Anyway, the two of them always plotting and scheming. Eventually, 2018-19, they leave and they go and set up a business together. And the business was it's like a sleeping bag sauna, right? You lay it on your bed and you zip it up, and it heats up and you sweat, and you then rinse it, and it's a personal sauna that looks like a sleeping bag, and it just makes you lay in your bed and sweat, right? And you have your own personal little sauna. Anyway, these guys launched this on Instagram. They get like an Instagram following. They make it seem really cool and sexy and cool. They give it a cool brand. And then COVID breaks out and everyone's stuck at home and it's winter and it's cold. And the idea of being in a little cocoon seems to appeal to everyone. So their sales just explode, right?
oh
And
wow.
right. So they're selling these things all over the world. And they took on no investors. They just simply made money from selling this really weird product, a sleeping bag sauna. And anyway, they just got bought out by private equity for millions. And they're both young guys. They're 27, 28 years old, and
Damn.
millionaires now. And yeah, very, very
Like
fun.
sleeping bag sauna. That's
The
gonna
sleeping
work.
bag,
Like you
the
like
sleeping
that's
bag
never
sauna.
gonna work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because you're lying in your own sweat there for a while, like until you get up and clean the thing. Yeah,
Oh
right.
wow.
But hey,
Well,
they
I can
made it
see
cool.
utility like if you're a wrestler and you need to cut weight,
Yeah,
but I mean,
that's one of the people. Like UFC has these
but
things. Yeah,
Yeah, but this
Anyways,
is such a small
I
tam, bro. Like,
I
you have
see.
an
Yeah,
actual legitimate question here from Vito. This is like a professional question for a professional Daniel. A good question.
yeah.
I love it.
Easiest way to scale car service business from 3 to 4 people to something bigger. Okay, so let's talk about just scaling a business in general. So the military, the army, especially the British Army, is about 400 years old, and they have a series of human teams that are in a set of sizes. So they have a 2-person scout team, they have a 4-person fire team, they have an 8-person section, and then about a 35, 40-person platoon, and then it goes up from there. So think about it like this. If you've got an idea that you want to see if it's a good idea, you put a 2-person scout team on that. If you want to run a successful campaign, you put a 4-person team on that, typically a leader, a salesperson, someone who's an assistant or admin, and someone who's very customer focused, right? And then if you go up to an 8-person team, an 8-person team can normally, you've got a leader, a general manager, sales, marketing, admin, and financial control, operations, IT, or media. So you got this 8-person, really nice little team. And that team can actually run between $1 and $4 million, $1 and $5 million, this little 8-person team, especially if you can get the top person, the leader, to be front facing. Let me go on a little tangent. In the Industrial Revolution, if you could produce something, if you could gross domestic produce a product, then you would have no problem selling it, right? So if I set up a scissor factory, I would have, if I could make 500 scissors, I would easily be able to sell 500 pairs of scissors. The hard part was making something. The easy part was selling it. In the digital age, the easy part is manufacturing something, right? Or making something, producing something. The very hard part is manufacturing demand. So what we now have is we actually have, in the industrial age, you had Henry Ford, who is a master at manufacturing supply with the production line. And now, who are the people who are making the most money? They're the masters of manufacturing demand, and they have a manufacturing line, a carousel, right? A manufacturing line of demand generations, right? So they call them funnel hackers, or they call them influencers. But essentially, what
Yeah.
they're doing is they're doing a production line for manufacturing the demand for something, and it almost doesn't matter what it is. It could be a sleeping bag sauna, right? And it doesn't matter what it is, provided you manufacture the demand. So one of the reasons that a 3 to 4-person team will get stuck is because they think that they're in the business of manufacturing supply. They think that they're in the service business and car servicing. And what the business team needs is it needs one person who's full-time thinking about absolutely nothing, thinking about absolutely nothing other than the manufacture of demand, right? So the supply side's easy, the demand side's hard, and you need to start thinking about that. And there's also the other thing to keep in mind for that person who asked the question is there's a pyramid of value. At the bottom is labor. Then the next level up would be skilled labor, people who have been trained. The next level up would be media or intellectual property that creates the value, and then algorithms and technology, which just does automation. Now, if you're trying to make your business work based on unskilled labor, you're at the very bottom of the pyramid. It's extremely hard to make huge margins off of unskilled labor. You need to say, okay, what do we do to go from unskilled labor, skilled labor? Even I wouldn't even worry too much about skilled labor, as little as possible. Intellectual property and media is the where you start getting some real returns, and then algorithms or software technology is where you get the highest leverage. So essentially what you're really looking for is to move further and further up that pyramid. So I would say whoever is asking that question, you've already cut your teeth and learned the basics of business through that business. Sell the business, sell it for shares in a bigger business, right? Swap it into a bigger business for shares. Now you're an equity holder in a bigger business and you can leave that business. Go start a business that's more intellectual property, media, and software. At the very, get together some skilled labor, create intellectual property and media and software, move up the chain as fast as you can. That would be my complicated answer.
There's an super important question from Lulu. Who had the beard first? Oh, it's a
I don't
tough
know
one.
about
Both of I
you.
think, yeah, same. No, I
I
had
don't
it.
know about you, but my wife has told me I'm not allowed to shave the beard. The beard must stay. It
I
gives me
had
the
the
illusion of a
beard
jawline.
for wow, 2009.
Oh, you
But like
win.
I
You
have an
win.
actual, but I have like a full-on beard.
Yeah.
Like yours
Yeah.
is
No,
more of a European beard.
mine gives me the impression of having a jawline, which is why it really
You don't need a jawline when you're a millionaire. That's my motto in life. But to your point, my dad told me this since when I was a teenager, and I was thinking about what to do in my life. I was kind of confused. He told me, listen, it's very simple. If you can do something that everybody else can, you're gonna get paid like shit. If you can do something that nobody can do, you're gonna be a millionaire. In the between, find where you're gonna be on the spectrum. That's how you're gonna make money, and it's as simple as
yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
I agree with that completely.
And then
Yeah.
supply, everything comes back to demand and supply, right? Oversupply of something and there's no value. Have a look at airline tickets. The airline business would be the hardest business you could ever possibly run. Everything has to go right. Customer service, technology, safety, the whole lot, capital deployment, and they don't make any money because it's oversupplied. Have a look at Rolex watches. Rolex watches are easy to reproduce, but people want the brand, and there's 18-month waiting list. So therefore, it's the watch doubles in value as soon as you buy it.
Yep. Also Tesla, same model.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Demand and supply.
I
So everything.
iPhones. I mean, iPhones do not generate double the value of an Android phone,
Yeah.
but
Exactly, but everyone wants it. And
yeah,
iPhones do 95% of the profit that is available in the industry. Of the actual smartphone industry, Apple does 95% of the profit. If I'm correct, maybe it's
yeah,
adjusted to maybe slightly less, but it's very very high. The two things that are most important is demand and supply and ownership. What do you own, and is it in demand, right? And the two mistakes people make is they don't own enough stuff, right? They don't own things, and then they try and do stuff that everyone's doing. So they're on they're on the oversupplied side as opposed to the undersupplied side. And that can be true for skills, but the only problem is skills don't necessarily lead to ownership. You can become a very highly paid person, your income goes up, your lifestyle costs go up. Without ownership, you don't ever get off that treadmill. You've got to own stuff. So the fastest way to own anything is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the on-ramp to capitalism. Capitalism, the clue is in the name, capitalism. You've got to have capital to play. If you don't have capital, you're out of the game. And I can tell you, by the way, once you've got capital, the whole game completely shifts. Because they do things like Lombard lending and
yep.
high net worth banking and all this sort of stuff. You end up with private banking relationships, and you can do all sorts of stuff.
You and I also wear black T-shirts. I just noticed this. Do you have an
Look at these
iPhone?
guys.
Do
We're
you
dropping
have an iPhone?
knowledge bombs.
Wait,
We're
you have an
dropping
iPhone?
knowledge bombs here, and they're just worried about our beards and our phones.
Let's see if you do you have an iPhone?
Yeah, I've got the old.
That's
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the new iPhone. I'm waiting for the
which
one
one
that
is it?
comes out.
Mine is 13 regular.
Yeah, mine. No. Mine's an older one. It's the big iPhone Max. What are we talking
Okay,
about these iPhones for?
I don't know, but it's fascinating to me that people like they catch the most like, insignificant topics. Um, so there's a good point here actually. I where was it? Yeah, Lauren is saying, and that's a good point. I mean, some scientists, they're uniquely skilled and et cetera, et cetera. They only make like,
It's demand and
uh,
supply. The demand and supply is purely and simply. It doesn't matter how skilled you are. It matters the relationship between demand and supply. If you are a extremely skilled scientist who studies snail shells, there's not a great demand for people who want to study snails, right? So it's demand and supply. It doesn't. It's purely and simply it's demand and supply and ownership. Do you own anything? And are you in demand? And if you can master those two things, if you can have something, if you can be in demand, which is having a brand, if you can have a personal brand, for example, like you've built, Tom, uh, that personal brand basically means you're always in demand. And then if you can transfer that to ownership, but the key idea is that the fastest, and one thing that breaks my heart is I see all these people who are pretty much broke trying to do the investing game, right? So they try and buy shares and they try and trade and they try and do all these investing games. These are ultra high net worth games, right? These are the games that you play once you've got tons of money and you've got loads of capital. And you know, if you want the on ramp to having money, it's entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the on ramp. That's how they all do it. That's how we all do it, right? Starting with nothing, the fastest way to end up with something. Because think about it, if you start your own company, you're 100% equity holder. You at least own something. You own something that's not worth anything, but at least you own something. So in the economy, you have a new set of rights as an owner and a director. You suddenly have new legal rights associated to you.
That's true, but I can push back a little bit. Before I push back, you're
Push
getting
back
a
as
huge
much as I love
validation here from Predno, who's literally saying what your suggestion was, and he's basically putting numbers on it and saying he's done the same thing. It was insanely effective for him. So that's kind of validation.
It's
I don't know who
incredibly
this guy
effective.
is.
It's
Yeah,
so
but
it's so
you
fast.
have proof. Yeah, real life proof. My pushback on what you said would be I agree with you, and because of what happened in 2020, this whole kind of let me just go double my money in the stock market, it created a lot
Yeah.
of I would say
But even still,
unsustainable.
if you start with $3,000 and you double your money, you've got $6,000. You might as well have worked at Starbucks for a month.
No, but let me tell you something, Daniel. I'm going to push back. So, unrealistic expectations from the stock market and complete lack of understanding is a problem. However, if you just realize the strength of compound interest and you put a little bit of your disposable income into the S&P 500 or whatever, like safe index for 20, 30 years while you actually do your thing, you're going to have a couple of million
I
maybe.
agree.
Like,
I agree with you. That
we're
well, you
back.
got me?
We had a little
Sorry.
bit of, yeah.
No, I've got a timer. I've spent too much time on my browser. It brought up a warning. So I agree with you, Tom. So here's the thing. I have always stuck money in S&P 500, tracker funds, Vanguard. I went to bonds earlier this year just because everything started to tip and roll over. I was kind of expecting it.
It's also because you're old.
Right? I was waiting for these rollover signs, and I moved across to bonds. And it was great because in my funds, there's actually just a switch. You literally just go risk profile 5 down to risk profile 1, and it moves you to bonds. So I spend I've done the tracker funds, and I am an investor. But let me be brutal. There's a very, very, very big difference when you've got $500,000 to $1 million of income and you can invest and stick money aside, compared to someone who's got a limited income and they're trying to make money. It's like, no, bro, go and get your income up first. Get higher and higher. Invest in yourself. Invest in your skills. Get a business. Own a business. Get equity. Like, get an equity share in a business for doing that, and then get that money into the markets. I'm not saying I love investing in terms of I love money that makes money and all of that sort of stuff, and the lessons that people learn are also great. But it's like the real money is still, like, do that as well. But the real money is where you spend your time, right? What you spend your time on. You want to be paid as much as you possibly can for that time.
There's a good question here from my friend. I'll tell you about it in a second. Just a quick question, Daniel. I know this is going to sound strange. Which chair are you using?
I don't know.
Is this a brand? Is it a known brand?
With a H, like a Harman. It's a German chair. My god!
Look at my. It's the same fucking chair, my guy. Look at this,
dude. We are like, if we
how
ever
do we have the same chair, bro?
The universe would collapse in on itself, right? Antimatter and matter.
It's called the Harman Miller something Aaron
Harman
or
Miller,
whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you have the same chair, bro?
I would like to see our wives, right? I wonder if I wonder if we're
Oh
married to
man,
the same woman.
oh man. I'll have to ask my dad what he was doing in the late 70s.
Did he take a trip to Australia?
I don't know. I'll ask him. So, my friend, on a serious note, but that's freaky because I saw the side of your chair. I said, the motherfucker has the same chair I have. Anyways, so my friend Farzad, uh, talented creator on YouTube, multiple years in Tesla, expert in business intelligence, super data driven guy, financially free already. Worked in Tesla, worked before that, multiple Fortune 500 companies. Uh, so he's asking, I think, what is a critical question, because when I had him on my channel as a guest, he talked to me about how powerful the different culture of Tesla was when he was working there for the 4 years he spent there versus anything else he's ever seen, and how he thinks that culture basically cultivated what Tesla is today versus everybody else. So he's
Totally.
asking something that's like super important, like how do you cultivate this like excellence, how do you motivation, like all the, you know what I mean?
There's habits and routines that great companies have, and there's standards that they settle for or don't settle for. So culture is a great conversation, and Tesla is an excellent example of a culture conversation. It really makes me angry that everyone gets upset when Tesla or Elon says, "Oh, we're doing a 1 a.m. meeting, or we're doing long hours, we're not doing work-life balance." Um, I'm a big believer that we should be able to have a full range of different organizational cultures, and people get to choose which culture that they want to join, right? So, for example, when I was before having children, I loved to work, right? So, I mean, I loved doing 60-hour weeks. I was absolutely in like for 10 years, from 20 to 30, my average normal week was 60 hours. And I just loved doing, as soon as I woke up, I'd work right through till the evening. At night, I'd be working. On the weekends, I'd be working. I'd fly around. I'd go to conferences. I'd be basically, to me, it was just living. And I loved my work so much that, like, if you had have told me you have to do a 4-day work week, I would just leave, right? I had no interest in that. All I wanted to do is belligerently kick down doors. I wanted hard problems, and I wanted to go after stuff, and I was 24 years old. I built an $11 million company in 3 years. And I tell you, how do you do that? You work all the time, right? You go absolutely crazy into the workspace, and you just work. But you've got to be working at something that you quite enjoy working on. Anyway, I think people, as long as they know what they're getting, as long as they know that Tesla is that culture, 1 a.m. meetings, if they say on day one, hey, look, don't work here if you don't want to do these crazy hours and do crazy things, it's fine. I hate this push that we have right now that everything's got to go towards work-life balance and all that sort of stuff. I don't have a problem with work-life balance. I think there's a time and a place for it, but I also don't have a problem with belligerent extreme focus. But anyway, back to the hobbies, the habits and the system.
The
So things
culture,
like, culture. So a lot of people think about culture and they think about ping pong tables and food and all this sort of stuff. It's all about like things like what we put in place is all of my companies. I've got 7 companies at the moment that I'm running across the group, and we're on 3 time zones. And we run all the companies on what we call the 5 A's. So the first one is alignment, which is making sure every person in the company understands the big goal. What are we trying to achieve? What's the vision, mission, and values? What's our 3-year, 1-year, 90-day goal? And everyone understands the objectives and key results, and that they're aligned to it. They want it and they get it. They understand it and they want it, and they personally feel an incentive to do it. And that if there's anything less than total buy-in, then we keep talking about it until we're in alignment. So number 1 is about alignment, vision, mission, values, purpose, 3-year, 1-year, 90 days. The next one is what we call awareness. So this is, we run an awareness list. Absolutely anything that our team has as an awareness, they've got to raise the awareness. They've got to surface and discuss the awarenesses. And what we do is we teach our entire team that if you notice something that makes you feel uncomfortable, that gives you a back of the mind awareness that something could be improved or something could be reduced, right? Raise the awareness onto the awareness list, discuss it, surface it, right? Talk it through, gather data, have conversations, right? Until it's no longer on the awareness list. The third one we do is accountability. So we have an accountability chart. We always have what we call our future state organizational chart, which is what does the perfect dream organization look at the next step. So if we're an 8-person company, we have a mapped out 40-person company. We have this is the accountability chart for 40 people. And if we're a 4-person company, this is our accountability chart today. And here's what it looks like at 8 people. We have our 3 to 6 list, which is our activities. Everyone has to constantly have their top 3 to 6 things which they're working on. We publicly declare our 3 to 6. On a Monday, we declare these are the 3 to 6 most important things for the week. And then on Friday, we strike out the 3 to 6. So everyone has to strike out, we've done, this is what got done. And then finally is the asset register. So it's everyone's job to develop assets. And we build, in particular, digital assets. We want to build intellectual property, media, and software. And we're just constantly building assets. So we keep a register of all the assets of the business and we develop those assets. So I do this across 7 different companies. Each company's got its own general manager. We teach them the 5 A's and we set that team in motion. And we basically drill the 5 A's and manage the 5 A's. And we produce rapid growth. My fastest growing company is growing at 10% per month. My slowest growing company is growing at 10% per year. But all of them are growing and successful and valuable. I've just sold a company. Basically, it's a formula that's worked for me for years.
I'm trying to cram in as much questions as I can, but I didn't know people are so interested in entrepreneurship because it seems like there's so many questions. I'm going to try to do this for a second. So Akram Dupe, by the way, who donated €5, thank you for that. We'll buy coffee to myself and Daniel. He's asking what books do you guys suggest for beginners in investing? Daniel wrote a few of them, just so you know, Akram. I mean, he has a few. We can show your books, but
well, I don't recommend.
You can shill your own book, Daniel. I allow you to shill your own book.
For the investing side of things, I love the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. It's a strange book. It's a weird book to read, but it's a very ancient, it's a 100-year-old book, and it talks about saving 10%. Don't invest into anything you don't understand, it's a parable, and I'm a big fan of that book. I like that book as a starting point for investing. So The Richest Man in Babylon. My books, I've written a book called Entrepreneur Revolution, which is all about the times and the trends that we're in and building a global small business. I wrote a book called Key Person of Influence, which is personal branding. Oversubscribed is Demand and Supply as it relates to entrepreneurship and orchestrating moments of high demand and low supply.
That's my favorite
24, book. 24 Assets is digital transformation. And currently I'm working on a book around scaling up and actually achieving scale and increasing the speed that you double. I've identified the principles of companies that double fast and double often. And I've basically been putting together what do companies do differently that are able to double and double and double. In particular, I love companies that have not physically changed their product much in the last 50 years, like Lego and Fender Stratocaster and Rolex, Tabasco sauce. There's all these businesses, Dolly Parton, Metallica. I love looking at businesses that have just doubled and doubled and doubled and doubled while staying very true to a set of principles around the products that they have.
By the way, just my own take on this. If you said beginners, so the first book is you need to read, and granted, it's not so updated to 2022, but there's the base book where everything starts. I'm sure you heard about it, Dan. Ben Graham's The Intelligent Investor. It's kind of the 101. Just you have to. It's not gonna teach you anything about 2022 investing, but everything you need, like the building blocks of understanding how to operate this in investing. That's a must read. I mean, I wouldn't even allow you to invest $1 before reading that book. It's kind of a basic.
The guy who taught Warren Buffett.
Yeah, so Ben Graham is the OG. He's the Michael Jordan of investing. Just so you guys know. So here's actually a question. You just answered that.
Yeah.
I want to show some of your work, if that's okay. I know you don't like to shill your own stuff, but I mean, fuck it. I mean, why not? This is some of Dan's books on Amazon. You know, where he sells them. Some of these are one of my oversubscribed on the left is my own personal favorite, but people seem to think they're really good. I mean, look, you can see by the reviews. Yeah,
And for parents, how to raise entrepreneurial kids.
that one is that's on my to read list for sure. I mean, you're reading yeah, a lot of fucking good books. But I mean, let's be honest. You're not here to sell books. You don't need this stream to
Oh,
sell
well,
books on Amazon.
I'm the thing I love about the books. People tweet me and they're like, I got a lot out of the book, and it's like it is lovely. I write books to clarify my own thinking, right? So that's my process. That's my
You don't
process for
really make
figuring out.
money from writing books. This is just for fun for you. I mean, that's not where you.
You make money from being an author. Like for example, the deals that I do when I buy companies or if I want to raise capital or any of that sort of stuff, when someone sees that you passionately write books about topics, they want to back you, right? So
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking. It's personal branding. It's like you want to
yeah,
showcase what you got. Yeah, understand.
yeah.
But
If someone knows that you care about a topic enough to write a book on it, then
yeah,
and the other one too is employees.
especially a good
If
book and not
if
like a
you
shit book. Yeah.
yeah, if you write a book, it attracts the most incredible, passionate team onto the team. My book, Entrepreneur Revolution, almost every one of my employees, they read that and they immediately understand the culture that we're trying to build. And there's all of our maxims in the book, and there's like it kind of outlays a blueprint for what a global small business should look like and what a fast growth, scalable culture should be like. From that point of view, I think the books are worth doing.
Farzad is my friend who asked you the question about the culture. He's saying the 3 to 6 list is awesome. Would really help drive accountability if everyone sees that everyone else is getting
Yeah,
stuff done. So I'll tell you the example. Like so I exist in the world of organized sports. I know it don't look like it, but I'm 42 years old, so fuck off. I've been professionally fat for 15 years, but before I gotten professionally fat, I used to actually play organized sports. And there's two types of basketball teams, and I'm using the word I understand to explain this. You get on the team, and the main guy or the main two guys, they're like divas. They're really talented, but they're like divas. They scream at other players. They don't really play good defense. Or you get on a team where the best guy is like lifting everybody up and he's encouraging you when you miss, and he's working he's diving for balls, and like these guys set the culture. So you look at them, and everybody, whether you admit it or not, uh, consciously or subconsciously, you align yourself based on the leaders, how they behave, if they come in early for a practice, etc., etc., how they sleep, how they eat, everything, and everybody. So that's why what you were saying is like that's why, for example, like let's talk about Tesla. People see that like Elon is a maniac. He sleeps on the factory office for he works
yeah,
24/7. Like, and they like, oh, if Elon is doing it, well, I got it. I mean,
yeah. We all better
I
do
can't
it.
slack off. Yeah,
And they know what they get. The important thing is you know what you're getting, right? So
yeah,
wouldn't it be horrible if you started at Tesla and they said, hey, we're all about work-life balance. We don't want you to do too much stress, too much work. Start at 10, finish at 3. And then you get there and you discover that it's this maniac culture. That would be
yeah,
unfair. I would not agree with that. But if you join a company knowing that Elon Musk is the CEO and that he
yeah.
is, you only have to do 2 minutes of research to know that it's going to be the most important work of your life, but it's going to be incredibly challenging. It's not going to be family friendly, and it's not going to be work-life balance friendly, and it's not going to be holiday on the beach
Yeah.
friendly, but you're going to do incredibly important work. It's going to be the time of your life that you look back on and say it was the most incredible few years. Then great, burn out.
Look at his personal life. He went through like 57 divorces, bro. You think that happened for anything else
He
but just
he just loves problems, doesn't he? He likes the biggest
yeah?
problems. It's like, oh, Johnny Depp
Motherfucker
and
dated
Amber Heard.
Amber Heard, bro.
Yeah, it's like, he's like always looking for like a planetary disaster to go after,
Yeah,
and
to fix. Yeah.
it's like,
Well. A few last questions. I'm holding Daniel longer than I promised to him, so I'll do it as quick as possible. My friend Chris Patel is asking, "What's your opinion on the real estate entrepreneur gurus?" Oh, that I have also strong opinions about. Um,
Well, with everything, there's good and
Especially there's one
bad.
in the UK. I'm not going to mention his name, but you know who I'm talking about. There's the
Look,
one.
I don't pay a
There's the
lot of
one named
attention.
after like his last name resembles the team that plays soccer in the UK, Leeds United. You know what
Oh
I'm talking
God,
about?
yeah, no, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I'm not gonna
I've
mention
heard,
it, but you understand it. Yeah.
yeah. So, so obviously, real estate is an interesting vehicle. A lot of money's made in real estate. There is a real estate shortage in many parts of the world, and real estate development is an important function within the economy. But you want to go with someone, you want to learn from someone who is really like has been doing it a long time, very ethically, has a great reputation, great brand, Google's extremely well. And the best thing you can possibly do in real estate is work in real estate. Like don't try and skip the levels. Go and like literally go and sell real estate or lease real estate or get like intimately get involved in an aspect of real estate. But it's an incredibly lucrative environment if you get it right, and it's incredibly difficult if you get it wrong. There's nothing worse than being held hostage by owning a property that's falling apart that you can't sell. You bought it too high and then it falls down. I find, you mentioned these gurus. I hate the idea that people sell this idea that you can um, be completely out of money, out of skills, no experience, no skills, and then you can just suddenly magically jump up the levels. And I think you're far better off doing an apprenticeship. Whatever it is you want to do, definitely do an
Yeah.
apprenticeship. The key thing is that one thing you always have to ask yourself the question is, am I working or am I creating something? And if you're working, like an Uber driver could do 16-hour shifts, but they're not creating anything. And if you're creating something for 16 hours, and you're building towards something and you're actually creating something, then that's very different to working. So in the real estate game, you've got to ask yourself the question: am I actually working towards something? Is there a plan in place? Am I putting in the time and the effort and the energy to build my skills so that I can then get involved in real estate ownership? But
But I
also,
think it's an advice that applies to every business. Then, like, think about it this way: like,
yeah,
I have a friend who's like trying to start up his own tax boutique. So what
yeah,
he did for the past 2 years, he's been working in a tax practice, just absolutely for peanuts, learning the
yeah,
business, learning the logistics, how you get clients, deal flow, how like even the mechanics of like technical stuff of like even professional everything. He's just working for free essentially. I mean, way below what he can earn but he's learning the business inside out. I think that's like a really good rule for any sort of business, right? Just
yeah.
uh,
Really, really smart. Really, really smart. And then the other key idea is that like all the money goes towards key people of influence in every industry. So every single industry has got a very small group of key people of influence, and essentially they're the ones who attract the best team members. They attract the funding. They attract the deals. And if you're not the key person of influence, it doesn't really matter what the key person of influence does. So when you see someone who is very, very well known doing something, well, it's happening for them very quickly and very easily because of their brand and their reputation, their personal brand and reputation. Now, mind you, I want to say I'm guilty of this. I made it sound easy that you could buy businesses a moment ago from retiring entrepreneurs, and I shoot myself in the foot because actually I made that sound so easy, but it's probably because of my skills and my brand that I can do that easily. And you probably have to build up to that and do an apprenticeship before you can actually get to the level where people are going to trust you in that respect. So I'm guilt. Don't listen to what I say because I'm a key person of influence in my industry because of my books that I've written, and that gives me a certain level of deal flow and a level of credibility that allows me to do stuff that most people can't do. So you can't easily replicate it or copy it. You have to build yourself up to it. And that's probably what's happening with a lot of the real estate gurus as well.
I think it's like even just to put it in perspective, what you said about, oh, that's how you get the deal flow, assuming you understand already the business. You first got to understand like the business. You have to learn the mechanics. I mean, I've never seen. Imagine you're going into to compete with people who've been doing this for years, and you're a complete noob, and you're gonna get crushed by definition unless you know what the fuck you're doing. I mean, it's literally like so arrogant to think you can just walk into an industry or a category, or even like a landscaping business in the neighborhood. Like all the other guys are like, you can get creamed unless like you create some sort of a brand. You
Yeah.
learn about the business. Yeah, yeah, I
Will
understand
say
that.
I
That's
will say
100.
this, Tom. Every business I buy, whenever I buy a business, and I do buy businesses, I absolutely refuse to work in the business for that reason, because I'm good at buying and selling a business because I've done that many times. But I will not work in the business because actually there's a good chance that I'm a noob at working in the business. I'd
Yeah.
much rather hire someone who's been in the industry for many years, and put them into the
Oh, I
business.
have a great question for you then. So we can finalize with this. So you just triggered this light bulb in my head. So I
Yeah.
saw my dad struggle with a lot of entrepreneurial stuff over the years. The main number one problem for him was always finding the right employees. He always kept fumbling that. Always, no matter how they looked in the beginning, finding trustworthy, loyal, responsible, motivated employees who can self-manage themselves. He never figured it out. To the last day, he always had to micromanage every fucking little thing, bro. Like, how do you do that? How do you find
So
these people?
So for starters, you have to have a business that good people want to work in. If you own restaurants, you're going to have a lot of transient people because restaurants are not something that people tend to want to work in for a long period of
True.
time. So you have to choose an industry or choose a business that is likely to get some people who would want to work in there a long period of time. The next thing that has to happen is you need to earn the respect and the loyalty of people by massively investing in them first. So, one of the most powerful things you can ever do is recognize people when they are hidden gems that need polishing, and to go and do the hard work with people to polish them up. So, if you hire someone from Harvard, they know they're good and they know they're doing you a favor to come and work in your company, or the attitude is they're doing you a favor to come and work in the company. If you hire someone who dropped out of school, went and worked at McDonald's, became a store manager at McDonald's, and has built up the ability to manage people working at McDonald's, and they're ready for a change and a shift. And you basically say to them, I know you don't have the qualifications, but you've proven that you know how to work and you know how to manage people. You've got street smarts. I see something in you. I recognize some value in you. I'm not going to overlook you. I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to work with you. That is incredibly powerful to see. If you're the type of business owner that sees that your job is to run a business that positively improves people's lives who work for you, that your job is to set people onto a better path than that like, I love the fact that I've had a dozen of my employees go on to become millionaires. They left the business when the time was right. They left on good terms, and I've actually got someone who's leaving at the moment, on great terms, and they're going to go on to bigger and better things. And it's just the time is right, and it's totally fine. But what is, I want to run a business where I genuinely take it on myself that I owe people more than they owe me. My job is to positively impact people's lives, and the goal is to leave people much better than I found them. And there have been situations where I have worked with an employee on a personal issue, something that I shouldn't have had to help them with. It's not really my job. It's not really my responsibility. And I've helped them with a health issue. I've helped them with a family issue. I've helped them with sorting out some unfortunate event that's happened in their life. And I've gone above and beyond for them. And then, oh my God, I've got 6 or 7 years with them after that moment, right? So, you can't just expect people to give that to you first. You've got to go and give it to them first, right? You go crazy level loyal to them and solve problems that they're having in their life, and then they will come and work hard in that. Now, I don't know whether your dad did that. Maybe he did, and maybe it's more the industry's fault, but it's more, you know,
I think it was a
Like
mix, Daniel.
I've stopped.
A lot of low quality employees, but also I've never seen him do any of the things you just said right now. As far
Yeah,
as like
like
take people under his wing and mentor them and take care of them, like it's kind of a
yeah,
little
like
bit of both.
literally solving you. Like for example, I've put many of my employees through training programs that are a step above where they could normally get training. I've sorted out personal issues with helped employees go through breakups, helped employees with sick parents. I've helped to source resources. I've helped employees when they're stuck in a particular personal situation. But the key is that I'm looking for. I'm always thinking if I help people first, then I will have earned their loyalty. I'll earn their trust and I'll earn their
Yeah,
loyalty if I give first.
it's a beautiful answer. I love that, and I think it's a great way to recap today's show because I think that in a way this answer is what I'll explain. So when I was growing up, so we're old, you and I are old. My dad is even older. So we saw a culture where you were supposed to be afraid of the boss. So the boss was supposed to be scary, you're afraid, and then your fear motivates you into doing somewhat of a, s- I guess, okay job. What the industry is evolving into is exactly what you're saying. Is basically good CEOs are no longer the scary big office, huge desk, kind of intimidating CEOs, but guys like my partner for Money Talks, Justin. By the way, Money Talks is coming back Tuesday morning, so don't worry about it. So my partner Justin, he runs a multi-million-dollar business, and we're doing also a YouTube show together. He's independently wealthy, and he manages a big company. He has zero distance with his employees. He takes them out to lunch. Like, there's absolutely no fear there at all. But he's such a great motivator that they just want to do the best for him. For example, the things he does for them, one of his employees, her car broke down, and he literally chauffeuring her home and back to the office for the past week. Like it's nothing. And it's a huge deal. So he'll buy them lunch, and he's like, this is like what you're saying. What I'm seeing him doing is exactly the new style of management of how you get employees motivated to take it to the absolute max to give you them all. But mm, I I'm so happy that this is where the world is headed. This is so exciting to see happen in real time.
Yeah, it is nice. It's a great culture, and it's that first part that I talked about, which is alignment, which is I totally expect people to act with their own self interest, and if I can develop them and help them and to improve them and to invest in them, then they'll realize that they want to be part of that. They want to be part of a company that has that ethos. I love taking people out for lunch and just asking, what do you want out of life? Like forgetting about the work environment. What do you want out of life? Where do you see yourself going in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now?
Yep.
Um, I'll ask questions like, um, I'll say, let's imagine you get to the end of your life, right? And you're looking back, what are some of the highlights you'd love? What are some of the things you'd love to experience? And if there's an opportunity to support anyone in any of their life goals, let's do it. Let's figure it out.
Yep, I agree with what Farzad is saying. Last comment before we sign off. Adrian is saying, working as an insolvency professional, I've seen a lot of owners think they need to be scary in order for employees to work well. Since they were in their office, that did not work. Uh,
Do you know,
it's
I had a funny thing. You ask anyone, do you work when you were an employee, did you work better when the boss was around or when the boss wasn't around? And it's like, oh, definitely I worked better when the boss wasn't around. It's like, then why are you around? Right? So for me as an entrepreneur, I'm never around. Like unless I'm taking someone out for lunch or I'm I've been called in. I let the team run the business. It's their job. It's yeah. So it's scary. The idea of being a scary boss is such a weird idea. It's such a foreign
no, this
idea.
is like 1950s
Yeah, I
US
know.
corporate culture. It's kind of the caricature of the angry boss screaming at like the Homer, like Mr. Burns and Homer Simpson relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Yeah, it's
Um,
so weird. I love what's called servant leadership, where you basically say, "Hey, look, I'm a resource to you. Your job, you want to get really great performance from yourself and from the team. Uh, I'm your resource. I'm your coach. I can be a coach. I can be a servant. I can be a cheerleader. I'm here to help you and resource you to get a great job."
uh, this is why Gordon Ramsay is a nice person.
He must have. He's worked it out.
No, man, that's not why. I mean, he made so much fucking. He's richer than God at this point. Who
He
like
he
he
look
can
he
afford?
he
Yeah,
knows what makes good television. I tell you, behind
yeah,
the scenes, Gordon Ramsay has got an incredible team of people who've been with him for years, years
yeah,
and years and years and years. There's different now, but mind you, I will say this. Let me get myself off the pedestal for a second. There are plenty of times where I nitpick and where I'm a little bit of an asshole, but it's in service of high standards, right? And if you look at Elon, if you look at Steve Jobs, if you look at Gordon Ramsay, there's a
yeah,
difference between acting from ego and acting from a place of we can do better than this. And the other day I was talking to my Score App team, scoreapp.com, a little plug for Score App. And I was talking to the team on
Here you go.
Slack, and I said, guys, I'm less than impressed. I'm less than 100% impressed with the most recent 8 templates. They're not as good as the 8 templates before that. The templates that you've uploaded, they're okay, but they're not the aesthetic that we're known for. I'm a bit disappointed. They seem rushed. They seem 90%, 80%, but they're just not as good as what we've previously done. And I just know we can do better than that. Right now, my team know that if I come out with something like that, and I basically say I think that work was okay, but it wasn't great, they go, right, okay, he's not barking orders. He's basically saying we need a high standard, and what we need to do is lift the standard and go back and lift the standard up. But that's not me saying I'm the boss and you're the. It's like, no, come on, guys. We know we can do. There's something better there.
That's a funny comment. um, uh,
We definitely have the same pedestal.
okay, so
Is,
this has
is yours, is
been
yours
90
the purple
minutes
velvet?
of brilliance. Daniel, as always, open invitation to you to come back anytime. You saw this time you texted me, hey, I have some time. Boom, I got you on. Next time you feel like you can come on, even if it's next week, next month. I mean, probably not tomorrow. Like next week or next whatever, you can do it again. I'd love to have you back on.
How many people were watching, Tom?
So I'll give you the channel analytics. Do you want to see it like in share screen? I can show you. Are you interested in that? Just for the
Yeah,
curiosity, I'll
sure.
show you. So this is how the live dashboard looks like. Wait, how do I go to the live dashboard? Uh, okay, no, I had to hide the stream key because somebody would just literally could take the stream away if I show this on screen. So this is the channel analytics. I hope this will work. Okay, found it. So we made $15.42 on the stream, which is a good amount. Thank you for the donations. So concurrent viewers right now are 310. Now
Yeah,
221 because we already the
I'm with.
moment we said, look at what happened the moment I said the stream is ending. Did you see this little
Yeah,
cliff?
boom. Yeah,
Boom. So uh, it counts as 3,000 views.
amazing.
I don't know how it's counting it because for the most part we usually had, you can see here. So you see 400 views,
Yeah,
like
nice.
pretty steadily. So 400 viewers, and then towards the end a little bit less. But I mean,
It's good. It's
I don't
good
know
to
how
see
it
that
counts the. How does 400 concurrent viewers for an hour equals 3,000 views? There must be like a conversion metric.
people come
Uh,
and keep people going.
yeah, but for the most part, we had like 400 people in the chat watching, enjoying, and it stayed like at 400 for a long time. But yeah, thank
That's cool.
you for the $15.42 for the donations. um, I'll buy myself a new pedestal. It's different. That's the Daniel. Oh
Tom,
yeah. So
you can save
Rosie's
up and get yourself
a
an
plan. Yeah,
exact same.
yeah.
I want to
The
see that you
guitar.
get. You've got to get yourself a blue one. Got to get a
You
Fender
know that
Strat.
for my friend Farzad, who actually plays like hardcore guitar,
Yeah,
um, I had him. I asked him to play "Unforgiven 3" by Metallica on his on my live stream when I hosted him, and he played. It was fucking
and he
epic.
smashed it.
Yeah, he's really talented. Rosie, I forgot to
Uh,
notify people. Oh, that's
so
true. I did
Rich,
notify anybody.
Rich said, "Can we give away some of my books?" I actually have 2 of my books for free that are just on the website. If you go looking for Key Person of Influence PDF, you'll find it, or 24 Assets PDF. My website is dent.global, as in make a dent in the universe.global /resources, and you can just have those books for free
And also
if you don't
reach
mind the
out to me
PDF.
later. I'll teach you how to pirate the other books.
Yeah, pirate my books. That's fine.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I don't mind.
Uh,
I genuinely don't mind. Like I'm more
honest-
interested in the fact that people enjoy the books. It's really not my main
Yo, it's
income.
the same conversation I had with Amit. So Amit is like kind of my little brother on YouTube, and kind of I feel like he's my little brother, and I was explaining to him, look, the reason while I'll always do YouTube, even if it's never going to be monetized for one day, is because I just enjoy the attention. I enjoy the idea of people listen to what I gotta say, and it's addictive. I could never give it up. Like the money
That's very
allows me to
self-aware.
not do other shit and just do that. But even if I had to do this for free, I cannot give up this attention. You know, so it's not money for me; it's the attention. I'm an attention whore.
Yeah.
Um,
Glad you know that about
so
yourself. That's nice.
I know the idea of like, look, everybody's in this world is just want to be heard, and it's so hard. You have a conversation with your friends, they all wait for their turn to talk. So everybody wants to be heard, but nobody really wants to listen. And all of a sudden, like you speaking, like on average, like my videos do like what, like 50, 60,000 views. It's this fucking stadium every day. Like the idea, it just fucking
That is
blows my
wild, yeah.
mind. I don't care about.
Centre Court at Wimbledon, which is just down the road from me, is 16,000 seats. So if you're doing 60,000, you're doing what, 4 centre courts? Yeah, that's
You
wild.
know, that's why it works, because it was never about the money for me. But now I enjoy the money, and it makes the business sustainable. But it was never like, oh, I'm gonna go on YouTube to make money. It was never that for me. It was like, I want to be heard, bro. It was also not like altruistic. I was like, I want to help people. No, fuck you all.
I
I
just
just
want to.
I just want to be able to talk and people listen. Like that was like egoistic as fuck. But it's not money. By the way, talking about, I'll tell you a crazy story. So back in the day, I was working for a large corporate in New York, and in these large corporate companies, I don't know if you remember this shit. You used to have dashboards, so you can go to the whatever event is going on in the city, a garden, whatever, and there's tickets, corporate tickets, and you can book the tickets, like if you have a client or whatever, or just for fun. And if there's
Amazing.
available tickets, you can take it. It was
You
amazing.
know,
So
I've never had a job, right? So
oh yeah, that's
I've
true.
never.
I forgot about that. Yeah, yeah.
I've,
So that's how it works, like a big corporate. It's really cool. So US Open was on, and I went inside the dashboard, and there's like tickets for Novak Djokovic against Stefanik, Czech player. Not a big
nice.
game, round two, whatever, but it was fucking free. It was basically I could
Yeah.
grab it the same day, and me and my buddy, I called my buddy up, said let's go to Queens. We took the train. We get to Queens. I was so tired because I just came back from a flight. The day there, I was jet lagged, and the game started later than expected. But because what happened essentially, we got like shit tickets up on the top, but because the game started late, everybody went home. So we went all the way down to like the third row in the middle, and I fell asleep. I fell asleep because I was so tired, and when I sleep, I snore really, really bad, bro. Really horrible. So all of a sudden, the last thing I remember is like watching the game, and then the next thing I remember is like everybody in the stadium is just looking at me in this complete silence. There's everybody, the players,
That
the
is
referee, the audience,
Djokovic.
and my body is just shaking me like this, like a fucking. It's like, and I said, what happened? I said, motherfucker, Djokovic just fucking cursed at you for fucking up his serve. At the middle of a serve. And the guy's like, "What the fuck?" And basically, yeah, that's how it played out. It was pretty funny.
I love it. That is brilliant. That's a
So-
great story.
Yeah, it was actually very embarrassing. But the crazy part is that John McEnroe was calling the game for the TV, and when the game was over, he came down from the booth and they played. Him and Djokovic played a few games, and Djokovic was impersonating McEnroe while playing against him, which is kind of funny.
That is
Like he was doing all this, the anger tantrums and everything. Like, yeah. So yeah, but yeah, that's
to just get corporate tickets. Something I've never experienced, Tom.
I think I'm banned from fucking.
I'm the guy who just has to buy all the tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, the snorer. You're banned. You're out.
It was also not our seats, so it was a kind of double sin.
Some other dude got banned because of you.
Imagine like you're a professional tennis player playing in the U.S. Open, and then some motherfucker in the second row like, in the middle of your serve. You don't expect that. You expect heckling, bad weather. You know what I mean? But not like snoring in the middle of his serve.
It's not ironic snoring, just genuine snoring. Just
yeah, genuine. Like somebody has a good sleep. Anyways, so thank you everybody. I hope you enjoyed this little story. Later, everybody. We're signing off. You don't have to stay here, but you can go home. Oh wait, no, other way. You don't have to go home, but you can stay here. Get the fuck out. Okay.